Okay, so everyone's gonna get a message. I think you have to say yes or no for the recording. So let me get started. Okay, so can everyone see the slide? Okay, I can see if you guys can give me a thumbs up. All right, so I'm just gonna I can see you guys like on a little square on the side. Oh, okay. All right. So, um, for those of you who don't know, because this is the second class that I've given, and please forgive me if I didn't invite you to the first one or you weren't aware. But uh, I began a school. It's called Pure Vitality University last year. And the school is for holistic care practitioners. So the first class that I gave, and I can always send you the recording on the first class, is basically going over what is holistic health. So food and nutrition, we did touch on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on all of the important points of what holistic health, is. They're going to be a summarized review. I I'm not going to go into too many details. I want to keep it simple, but I do want to touch on, the most important topics, of as I go along. But I want to keep it simple because number one, I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed. This is just a seed that I want to plant. Many of you are already on this journey. And many of you or some of you may not be, but God has put a passion in my heart to share this information. And I want to share this with my family and my friends because I know that when we know better, that's when we do better. So this is very important for me. And, you know, this topic, food and nutrition, I am so excited about. This is my favorite topic. And this is where my journey began about 10 years ago when I was just extremely exhausted from the moment that I woke up. And I went to a doctor, and I had a wonderful doctor. She ran some blood work and she told me that I was malnourished. So there is where my journey began with um, learning and trying to take care of myself when it comes to, food and nutrition so that I can be as healthy as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the first slide, which is basically the foundation. You know, the topic is why is food the foundation? And that is because food provides us with vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and other important factors that we need. The food that we eat becomes part of us and creates our cells and tissues. Food is the largest source of nutrients and affects our body more than anything. So, whenever I work with a client and I'm still a student, I am currently working with three um, of my friends and family, and I'm working with them. And the first step is addressing food, in any health crisis. So if someone comes to me and they are fatigued or they have some pain, or they're dealing with some serious disease, food will always be the foundation. That's where we start, and then we build from there. So the problem. The problem is that you know, we have a deficiency of nutrients, or when we have a deficiency of nutrients, that leads to poor health. So each nutrient is necessary for the body to regulate its functions. If it is missing a nutrient, there is nothing else the body can use in its place. When we look at the food, the American diet, the food that most Americans eat, they are not even providing the minimum amount that the body needs. And I put a little chart there because if you think about like the typical American diet, there's French fries there, so fast food. There's a donut on the bottom, a can of soda, a pizza. There's a cocktail, like an alcohol drink. And then there's a little symbol there of money, um, because a lot of this food that is, lacking in nutrition is pretty cheap. So I just wanted to include that in there. Now, research shows that there is a minimum amount that the body needs so that it does not get a deficiency. So there are charts, and I can, I'm going to give you guys some resources. The government has, can't think of the website right now, but it's not the FDA, but if I remember, they have a chart where there's a chart showing the minimum amount of, for example, iron that we need, vitamin A, vitamin C, zinc. So a few good meals cannot make up for years of a diet. It takes time, it takes nutrient dense food along with supplements to make up for the loss. There's a doctor that I was introduced to through school. His name is Dr. Weston A. Price. And he's actually a dentist from Cleveland, Ohio, from the 1930s. And he wrote a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's an amazing book. So he talks about optimal nutrition versus loss of nutrition. So the body compensates for lack of nutrition by taking shortcuts when our body is growing and developing. So our overall structure is weakened if we have deficiencies in nutrition. So, but when the body has all it needs, basically all the building blocks that it needs, it does not need to take shortcuts, and the body will be stronger, more robust, and resistant to disease. So you know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna stay here for a moment because the book, it's called the Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Um, I'm just gonna stop the share really quick and just kind of elaborate on it. Um, he did an amazing study where he studied children in third world countries, and that ate local grown food. So in these countries, we think that they're they may be deficient in nutrition, but they don't have like the major supermarkets. They don't have McDonald's, so they were eating locally grown food. And then he also studied children in America, and he saw that the children in those countries had wider jaws. They had straighter teeth. The women had wider hips, and they had less issues with childbirth. There were, if minimum to almost no deliveries by C-section. And the women in the U.S. had more narrow hips, more narrow jaws. The children had crooked teeth because, again, like I mentioned earlier, because of the lack of nutrition, so our body is not growing and developing the bones the way it's supposed to. So I'm gonna give some resources at the end, but that's a great book. That I'm glad that I have such a wonderful schooling, that I've been learning so much. So let me go to. Can you guys see the full screen of the? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we were here. So Now we're gonna get into a different topic, which is about cravings. And one of the I'm gonna go into just a few points. There are more, but for lack of time and I don't want to overload. I picked the points that I think that most people can relate to. So the first one is emotional eating, which is the cause of lack of primary food. So this a lot of this information we may start making a connection to it, which is great. So there are four what we call primary food: physical activity. It was actually the second one. I changed the wording to vocation and purpose because it was actually career. But career, not everyone is pursuing a career when you are, let's say, a student, or a child, or even at your retired age. So vocation is something that we feel called to. So that could be in the form of a job, but it could also be ministry, stay-at-home moms. So that's why I also put purpose, So although we may have a 9 to 5 job, there may be something else that is fulfills us in our purpose. Could be being a grandmother. It could be pet sitting, um, leading Bible studies, things like that. So the third point is relationships, and then the fourth one is spirituality. So when we have a lack in one of these areas, a lot of times we will experience cravings. And I put we because I'm included in there. This is for all of us. Now, boredom goes hand in hand with physical activity. So, the American lifestyle is we live sedentary lifestyles. We may struggle in the relationship department, not feeling loved, and we begin to crave things that fill what is lacking in these areas. Or if you're uninspired, by a job, or your spiritual practice is lacking, all of those things can cause emotional eating. Now, another thing, and when I was going over the material for school, another a reason why we may experience cravings is lack of water. And the first thing that my teacher put, she says, "Believe it or not," and it's true. This may be difficult to believe, but when we are thirsty, we will crave things. It's basically our brain sending a signal to you that you're hungry. When you're thirsty. So I just noted a little tip there, but I'm going to go into other tips. Where drinking a glass of water before eating can also help you control cravings. So, for example, let's say you just had lunch, say 2 hours ago, and you typically eat, maybe 3 to 4 hours later your dinner, and you're like, why am I hungry? So basically, if you're questioning yourself, like, why am I hungry? I just ate. One of the tips is just drink a glass of water, and what that's going to do is going to hydrate you so that you will be able to make a decision after you're hydrated to say, oh, that's just a craving, or I'm really hungry. So that's just a quick little tip I wanted to throw in there. So one of the biggest components of cravings is lack of nutrients. Our brain, again, is communicating this to us through cravings. So lack of nutrients, if we're, not eating well, if we're eating a lot of fast food, a lot of junk food, and you know what those things are, drinking a lot of soda, our body is telling us that we need nutrients. One thing that I do want to mention is, for example, let's say you're craving orange juice. It could be that your body is craving vitamin C. So that's just one tip that I wanted to throw in there. So the conclusion is what are good food rules. Um, and there's a lot of information out there. There's so many different diets, the keto diet, the paleo diet. Some people are vegan and some people are vegetarian and pescatarian. There's so much out there, but we want to keep it simple. So um, the first point is eat only whole foods. And this is so simple because whole foods are basically foods in their original state. So I'm going to use the example as of a sweet potato, an apple, asparagus. It's in its natural form. So, uh, things that are come in a box are not in its natural form. So, I'm just going to use like spaghettis. And I'm not saying that we can't eat that with, other vegetables, but we want to keep foods in its natural state. Um, we do also want to avoid processed foods. Sugar is also considered a processed food. We want to avoid sugar and soft drinks. And there is a list of other things, but I don't want to overload. I want to keep it simple. Um, but we'll go into a little more detail about food guidance. But you also want to eat more raw foods. So raw foods, we're not talking about sushi. But a little tip is you can, let's say you're making a salad. You can always add some raw onions, some raw garlic, a little, unless you like a lot of garlic. You can cut up some peppers. That's raw. Cucumbers, those are all raw vegetables. You can even add some apples, bananas, make it exciting. And then the fourth tip, which I, you know, this is something that is also new for me, is to cook with low heat. So I have a few notes on that I didn't put in the slideshow, but one of them is that more nutrients are destroyed in high heat. So also fats and oils at high temperatures, they cause havoc in our bodies. So it's just difficult for our bodies to process them. So you want to keep, whenever you're cooking, keep it at a low heat, a low temperature. So now we'll get into a little more of how you can change your diet. And I'm using the word diet, but the truth is that this is really a lifestyle. So you're really not going to hear me talking much about losing weight and things like that, because the truth is when we are eating a healthy, well-balanced diet, um, the weight is going to come off on its own. You're going to experience weight loss even from drinking more water. So these are the weight loss is actually something that's going to happen naturally. So my focus will always be on nutrition, because that's really the key. So how to change your diet? Again, we're keeping it simple. We want to reduce the bad things. And again, I think we know what the bad things are. We talked about it in the previous slide, which is processed foods, soft drinks, things like that. So we want to reduce and add. So for an example, um, my biggest, this is what I will tell anyone that I'm working with is add a green smoothie to your day. Green smoothie is going to give you fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables. You can add spinach, you can add kale, and then you can throw in some fruit just for taste, water, or you can use coconut juice, coconut water, I'm sorry. Um, and just blend it up, and you can drink anywhere between 2 to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables right there, and that's it. You're done with the required amount for the day. Another thing is, if you're having issues with food, if you're having issues with your digestion, if you're having issues with going to the bathroom, if you find that you have indigestion or bloating, you may want to get tested for food sensitivities. Now, not everyone can do that. There may be financial limits, or we may not have health insurance, whatever the case is. But if you can't do that, then you can try what's called an elimination diet. And gosh, I'm stumbling. An elimination diet will just be simply removing food from your diet for 30 days to see how you're doing. And then you can always add it back in. Okay. Another thing is we want to avoid fried foods. So in the previous slide, I've talked about cooking foods with low temperature. Fried food is cooked at high temperature to get the oil to be able to cook the food. And again, it's an oil, so our body does not do well with fried foods. And then, if you're on a journey, if you are desiring to make some changes, you want to keep a food journal. This is going to allow you to see things in writing and be able to recognize things that are going on. So I wrote there in parentheses, listen to your body. So when you keep a food journal, you want to write down things such as what you ate, of course, how you felt immediately after you ate it, both physically and emotionally. And then you also want to write down how you felt over the next 24 hours. So, it could be, let's say at night, oh, I feel pretty good, or, I'm feeling bloated. Or let's say the next day, I woke up with fatigue. I have a little bit of, let's say, brain fog today. All of these things are important. All of these things matter. So I'm I'm done with the presentation. Again, I wanted to keep it simple, but I hope I was able to drop a few seeds. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions, we're going to do that towards the end. But I also wanted to leave you with a few references. Number one, what we want to do is we want to learn, we want to educate ourselves. And we live in a world where we live in what's called the information highway. It's the time of information. So if anyone likes to read books, there's a great book. I love Dr. Mark Hyman. It's called What the Heck Am I Supposed to Eat? I love the title alone because, again, it can be very confusing. There's a lot of information out there. There's a guy that I just found on Instagram. His name is Jabez El Israel. I just ordered his book. I have not read it, but I am so inspired by what he teaches on his Instagram page. He's always teaching us to read the labels. And I know I didn't get into that much, but that's something that is also very important. So the name of his book, absolutely love it. It's called Life Matters, So Let's Eat Like It. I mean, those titles alone are just incredible. It makes you want to read the books. But there are also a lot of movies and documentaries. I couldn't remember all of them. I've probably seen them all. But Food Inc. is one of them. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Incredible documentaries. And then another thing is you want to get support. You don't want to do this alone when you are starting to make changes. So ask a friend or family member to join you on this journey. Whatever journey it is, it could be, hey, I just want to start eating more salads, or hey, I want to start drinking more water. Or like we talked about earlier, physical activity. Hey, I want to start walking in the morning. Would you partner with me? And do it in increments. Let's just do it for 30 days and see how we feel. Just give yourself increments so that you're not overwhelmed. And then again, you want to keep it simple. So guys, I am available. I am, still a student. Hey, Jesse, good to see you. And Stephanie. I don't know when you guys came in. I couldn't see. And Johnny. But I am so excited about this journey. You guys are my friends and my family. So I'm already available to you. You can call me, you can text me. But if there was anything on here or anything that you on your own is experiencing and you have questions, I'm here. Again, I'm still a student. I am finishing. I have to do health evaluations, which I think my health evaluation people are here. I'm not going to say who you are, but I'm just saying. And this is also why I'm doing it because I work full time. I have a family, but I want to, I can't contain this information. So I think that group settings are the best so that we are already supporting one another by being here. And then the questions and answers at the end, someone may ask something that you didn't think of, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And it's going to spark something, inside of us. So I'm gonna stop the recording, and then I'm gonna go right into